everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. Once again, we'd like to thank our friends at Aging Partners and at LNK TV for producing the show today. It's great to be in the studio, and my guest today is Randy Bretz. Welcome to Live and Learn, Randy.
Hey, it's really kind of fun to be here.
Thanks. Randy's one of the busiest, most connected, sort of happiest, optimistic people that I know, which is, I know he's laughing now, but you retired from Nelnet in what year?
2008.
2008.
No, not that. 2018.
18. Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know when I retired from Nelnet, but it's been about 10 years ago.
Okay. And
2012.
Yeah, okay. That's about the same time I left the university. And here's just a little short list of what Randy's accomplished since then. He worked as an announcer on Nebraska Public Media Radio. He worked with Leadership Lincoln. He brought TEDx to Lincoln and nurtured that into kind of the powerhouse that it is. He has supported his wife through a really significant health crisis. He's a standout in Rotary 14. He's taught at Nebraska Wesleyan. I think he still continues to do that. He works with an international group of young leaders. You started a podcast and a blog. You are tremendously engaged with your church and your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. And you got your neighborhood together outside weekly during the pandemic, just kind of touch base and make sure people are doing okay. And you've interviewed dozens of Lincolnites and about what makes a community work, and you wrote a book. And that's just a start, and I'm exhausted.
I got exhausted. She sent this to me. Look at this. And I read this, and I thought, I actually wrote you back and said, take some of that out, didn't I? And you didn't.
I took out the one thing about the Cascade Fountain.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the Cascade Fountain.
But you live what I would call an active retirement.
I do.
And tell me why you think that's important.
Well, there's several reasons. But I will explain my retirement first.
Okay.
I don't play golf. I don't fish. So this is what I do. And all my grandkids live in other cities. So I'm just plugged into the community. Why that's important? Gosh, I don't know if you're going to ask me that first, but I've got something here that explains that. Let me. This is from. I just got this Harvard's Men Health Watch, and I'm not paid to promote this for Harvard, but it said doing multiple activities, types of activities, improves your cognitive health, which is your thinking. It talks about doing physical exercise for strength training, so on. And I know my wife is going to watch this, and she's going to say, you don't do enough of that, and I agree. But also health, worry about what you eat. And then the third is just social, being involved and active with people. And that's what I do. I'm a very social person. I say hi to everybody on the trail when I pass them when I'm walking. And I talk to my dog when we walk, and I'm just social. But that helps keep your brain going. And a lot of us at my age struggle to remember what person's name is or some things like that. So that's why. Plus, I believe in this city. I've lived here for 43 years, and this is a great place.
I think so too. I love this book. Let's talk about your book here.
Okay.
I'm holding it up here. It's called The People of Lincoln, The Framework of Community. And I like that you haven't talked about it's not a community, but of community. And why don't we talk a little bit about maybe the differences there and why you chose that name, and then tell me a little bit about this book.
Well, it actually started when Jan and I were participating in Leadership Lincoln Executive Series, and we got to know people. And that year, Dean Finnegan invited Peter Kagiyama from, I think he lives down in St. Petersburg, Florida. He came up and spoke at some kind of a banquet. And he talked about people called co-creators. And these are people that see something that needs to be done, and they said, well, I'm going to do something about that. I'm doing that right now with Mary Kay Roth. We said, this city needs a storytelling festival. So we didn't ask the city council to appoint us in charge of it or anybody else. We just said, let's do this. Those people are called co-creators. Well, Dean Finnegan said, Randy, we got a lot of co-creators in Lincoln. Why don't you interview some of them and write stories about them? And so I started doing that. And as I was doing that, I started working part-time with Leadership Lincoln and as a retiree. And Mick Hale said, well, Randy, why don't we broaden this and talk to other leadership Lincoln alumni. So I started interviewing them. And they ran those in the newspaper. And I shared them on my Facebook and, you know, those kind of things. And then I was doing those interviews. I started encountering people that were born here, moved away in search of whatever, and then they come back, and I call them boomerangers. And after, you know, I interview people, I write stories about them, and then they run them into the Journal-Star. And I thought, maybe I could take some of these and put them together in a book. So that's how it came to be.
Yeah, I really like it. There's what, 16, 15, 16 people?
There's 16, yeah. There's an interesting story there. I picked 15 people out of, I've got about 50 interviews that I've done. And I wanted men and women, I wanted young and old, I wanted a racial diversity. So I put 15 together because I thought, well, that's a good number. And I was having coffee with a friend, and she said, well, for sure, Jody at the parking garage is going to be in the book. I thought, oh gosh, I forgot about Jody. So I added, made her number 16.
Jody's the knitter, correct?
Yeah.
The knitter.
She used to work in Central Garage in downtown Lincoln. And
Yeah.
that's a story. I don't know if you want me to tell that story.
I remember seeing
maybe
her.
you have to get the book.
You have to buy the
You have to
book.
get the book in order to. No, I can tell the story if you want.
But yeah, so I like the idea of the co-creators again. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think makes a co-creator? And
you know, I haven't analyzed that. But I've interviewed a number of them. One of them is Jim King. Jim has been a friend of mine for a long time, and he's a retired professor, and he plays the guitar, the ukulele, and the banjo. And he just said, you know, kids need some fun and music in their birthday parties, so he just goes and plays at birthday parties. And not too long ago, we had the Lincoln Arts Festival downtown. It was hotter than blazes, and the guy sat down there on the street playing his guitar all day long for people.
he was at the East Campus Discovery Days last Saturday.
Yeah,
And
and
playing
he
that.
just does stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but Jim's got an interesting story of how he started doing that. So, and let's see, who else is in my co-creator category? Well, Jody. I'll talk about Jody, who in the parking garage. She was homeless herself, and at one point in time, and she knows what the homeless people need. They need warm clothing. So that's why she knitted. And nobody said, Jody, the people, you know, homeless people need hats and mittens, and so she just started knitting. And I used to park in that garage a lot, and I got to know Jody, and I said, why are you always knitting? And she said, well, I'm doing this for the homeless. And so that's her story.
I think that says a lot about you, though, Randy, because you noticed her. Think of the
Yeah.
hundreds of people that drove in and out of that garage every day and just waved their cards, paid their bill, you know, maybe waved at her and drove on and never made another thing wondering why this woman is knitting and what her story is.
Well, and that goes to how I am. I talk to people on the bike trail
Yep,
or in the sidewalk, in the grocery store.
yep.
But that's the way Lincoln is. When we moved here, I remember Jan coming home. We've been here 40-some years. We came from Indiana, which is not considered an unfriendly place, but she came home one day. She said, I'm standing looking at a head of lettuce in the grocery store, and somebody walked up and just started conversation with me about lettuce. And she said, I don't know who you are, but that's part of what I think makes people in Lincoln, makes Lincoln a great place.
I saw a woman at Trader Joe's about a month ago, and her hair, when I first saw her, I was struck by this sweater or something that she was wearing that was handmade and really cool. And then she had really white hair, but as I looked closer, I realized her hair had kind of this sort of rainbow, pale yellow, pale blue, pale. And I looked at her and I thought, that's fabulous. So I said something to her about it. I love your hair. It's really, really cool. And she laughed and she said, my granddaughters did it with Sharpies. And I thought,
With Sharpies.
With
That
Sharpies.
won't wash out.
Well, I thought, you know, that's a really confident person who lets their granddaughters take Sharpies to her hair and is cool enough to just wear it proudly. And I'm sitting there thinking, I wonder if Sharpies would work on my hair. But that's an example of just sort of this random person. And I loved it. I came home from the grocery store and I was just like, oh my God, that was so great. And then I started thinking, well, I hope I made her day by telling her that I thought her hair was cool. And you could tell she was kind of smiling about it and everything. And I don't know that that's a uniquely Lincoln thing, but I do think that like Jan having that encounter about lettuce, or you having an encounter on the trail with somebody about, I don't know, your mutual crazy dogs chasing bunnies or whatever. I think that says a lot for our community, that we're not completely wrapped up in our own thing, that we...
I went out to Holmes Lake this morning. You know Mary Kay Roth? I went out and just to catch up with Mary Kay, because she walks the trail around Holmes Lake every morning and takes sunrise pictures. And we sat on a bench for a few minutes and talked, and she said, Randy, and I hope I'm not taking her blog away from her, because I think she's going to write about this, but she said, Randy, I think sunrise people are friendlier than sunset people. I said, okay. She said, I'm out here every day, or in nice, decent weather, and there are, I don't know, a couple of dozen people out here that I know. I may not know their names, but I know them a little bit. And then there are some that I've gotten to know even better. And, that's just the way people are.
There is that Holmes Park walker community, I think.
Yeah, well, but you'd find the same thing in mall walkers, or on the Rock Island Trail near where you and I live. There's just the same crowd of people. But
yeah.
I'm a believer in connecting. In fact, I did an Ignite talk last year on the value of connecting. And you mentioned my neighborhood. I used to call them honk and wave neighbors. And I think anybody watching out there said, I can identify with that. I know, what's his name down the street? He drives that black car. But they, I didn't know my neighbors. And during COVID, I don't know, I think I saw on TV, the people in Spain were stepping out and applauding the healthcare workers. So I thought, well, I'll do that. And next thing I know, Eddie and Amanda are out. They live on the circle near me. And then Joy and Caleb came out. Ellen next door came out. And by May, we were out there for 15 minutes or so on our sidewalks in the circle, but talking to each other. And then by June, we're in the circle and up to an hour a night, just kind of catching up.
So you did that every night?
Every night from about, I started in March, from March until about October.
Wow.
Every night. And
that's fantastic.
Well, and I don't think we were the only ones. I've talked to other people around I'm just a guy that lives on the street that likes to write stories. So I wrote stories about it. And the Journal Star picked that up, and then Reader's Digest saw it and said, oh, that's the nicest place in Nebraska. So
it is the nicest place in Nebraska, or at least the nicest place in 68502.
Well, we're better than the Country Club area where you live.
Oh, that's right, because we have that, that invisible line called the trail.
Yeah.
So anyway, Randy, this is great. You know what? We're out of time.
Oh my gosh,
I know that you
this
and
has
I.
been fun.
I know you and I could probably talk for 2 hours.
Well, I had these 8 other things that I wanted to talk about.
And we actually did talk for 2 hours the other day at the mill. And it was fun because we're sitting at the mill, and I cannot tell you the number of people that came up and said hi to Randy, because Randy's a co-creator and pretty interesting, connected fellow.
And just an extrovert, off the chart extrovert. So thank you.
Thanks for being here. I want to remind our viewers that it's never too late to live and learn about your community and being a part of it.